Hello, everyone. My name's Duncan White. I'm the managing editor of International Fire and Safety Journal, and I'm delighted today to be joined by David Rhodes and Eric Schlett from FDIC. As we all know, FDIC kicks off in just a few short weeks' time. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Duncan.
Good afternoon.
So, Eric, I know you from old. Tell all the people listening to this what your role is in FDIC.
So I'm the executive vice president and director of FDIC International, as well as the Clarion Fire and Rescue media brands, which include Fire Engineering Magazine. It's been around for 150 years, long before you and I were around, Duncan, but maybe when David was first born. I don't know. And then Fire Apparatus, as well as Firefighter Nation and GEMS. But really, really excited also about the things we're doing with fire engineering training, bringing the type of training that you get at FDIC to an LMS where folks can get that online and get their continuing education credits. So it's been an incredible year. And David, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm David Rhodes. Been in the fire service 38 years, retired from the City of Atlanta Fire Department as a battalion chief, and have been the editor-in-chief of fire engineering for just a little over a year now, and the education director for FDIC. So while Eric's got the entire process, my focus is on just the education part, which is all the hands-on training, the workshops, and the classroom sessions, and then helping out where I can in other parts of the show.
Excellent, and thank you both for that. And you can tell straight away the camaraderie of the fire service world, that we can sit here and trade jokes with each other. And I think that it would be remiss of me if I didn't take just an opportunity at this point to remember Bobby and just say that whenever we land or fly into Indy and we get to downtown Indy, it's certainly the remembering of Bobby, and he'll always be there with us. He had he made such an impression on my life as a firefighter, and welcomed me with open arms when I stepped over into publishing. So we've done that. God bless Bobby. On we go. And David, I think you talk about your role in the organization, your background in the fire service. I was with somebody yesterday that I hadn't seen for 20 years, who reminded me that it'll be 35 years next week that we walked in the training center together when we started our fire service career. So time flies, but I think that we all agree we'd do it all again. So Let's talk about exciting stuff. Everybody looks forward to March, April, depending on where Easter falls, when we're going to come to Indy and catch up with old friends and make new ones. So, Eric, coming to you, for somebody that's listening to this and we're looking to attract them to come to Indy, what makes FDIC a must attend for firefighters globally?
Wow, I mean it's really broad, right? Because it's different things for different people. But I'd say the key thing is they're coming for the education. They're coming there to get the training from peers, right, or people they respect, that are leaders in their departments around the country and even around the world, right? So that's one element of it. And that, whether it be hands-on training or workshops or classroom sessions, they're going to get top flight information, unadulterated by any advertising. It's not a sales pitch. It's, hey, here's the bare knuckles facts that you need. So that's one element, and that's a key group, right? So, but then you have the other ones who really just need to recharge their battery after a year, right? And they want to be with the brothers and sisters of the fire service so they can network. Yeah, they get the education. They're going to look at the products that are out there, especially the new technology and advancements, to help them do their jobs better. So this is like the Super Bowl, of the coming together of really the fire service. And I believe even the manufacturers feel that way. So, we have built something that's great, but with that, now we have a responsibility to continue that. And every year we introduce new elements so that we keep it fresh and we keep it exciting. And I have a tremendous team, and David's my right hand man on the education. I am telling you, this man, and by the way, thank you for mentioning Bobby. It's always good to do that. But I could think of no one better than David to step up and fill his shoes. And Bobby actually hand selected him because Bobby was talking about retirement. I said, well, if you're going to talk about retirement at some point, which you deserve, we got to have someone who's waiting in the wings. And David was that guy. So when Bobby and I offered David to come on board after he retired from Atlanta Fire Department as a chief, he had been doing contract work with us for years, probably as long as I've been here, which is 24 years. So David was the right guy to step up. And whether it's the pomp and circumstance that you get from the main program, which is always really could be tear jerking or uplifting or a little bit of both, it's just an amazing experience. And the show floor bustling with 800 some odd booths of product where they're even learning on the floor. So it's all things to all people, right? It depends on what they're looking for. Some of them want it all. Some of them want segments of it.
Exactly. And I think that it would, again, worth noting that Sarah and Nancy and the great job that they do behind the scenes in making sure that we all get the booths that we want. They're very often the unsung heroes that shy away from the praise. But let's not forget
that's Nancy and Susie. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And from us in terms of media, with the work we do with Sarah and the team on that side of it, they're invaluable as well. But David, Eric touched on the hands-on training. There's probably a group of regular visitors that come in purely for the expo that don't realise that hands-on training is such a big part of FDIC, and that all kicks off earlier in the week on Monday with registration starting on the Sunday. So tell us why that's so important.
Yeah, it's important to us as a business, and also from the educational standpoint. It's an investment that Clarion makes back into the fire service. It takes a tremendous amount of resources to pull off. You're looking at 15 to 20 sites away from the convention center, buses, lunches, the instructors, anywhere from 6 to 10 instructors per class that basically come in with nothing but their PPE. And then we have to supply everything to make that class work. So it's a huge investment for us back into the fire service. And it pulls that person who is not satisfied with just the regular type of training that they get at an academy or inside their department, and it allows them to come outside and see what else is out there in the world. And so we're very fortunate to be able to have that as a program. We have 20 classes that fall into the hands-on training categories this year. That usually brings somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,500 students to the program. And we have some of the traditional old favorites that just continue to be what the audience wants, which is like the flashover class. We've got several live fire classes in the hands-on training. And then this year we have a couple of new classes. One is live fire. It's a can confidence class, teaching you all about how and what you can do with just the 2.5 gallon pressurized water can. We have a street smart, common sense technical rescue class that's going to cover 4 or 5 different scenarios, like a car into a building, a person trapped under a piece of machinery. And it's what you can do as a first due company without the technical rescue team with the equipment that you have to help mitigate those situations. So it's a full lineup, and I know the early bird ends in a couple of days, but we are sold out in about 60-70% of the hands-on classes already. So it's something that if you're interested in, you really need to jump on as soon as possible. And something that we have new this year, first time ever, is we're offering this hybrid type format of hands-on training, which we're calling a hot workshop. And people are probably familiar with the workshop format that we've had, which is 4-hour classroom blocks. But this is going to be a combination of classroom and some hands-on, and it'll all be done at the convention center and Lucas Oil Stadium. Same format, Monday and Tuesday, 4-hour blocks. And what we've done is we've asked some of our iconic lead instructors to step back from their regular hot class and pass those along to some new leads to help them develop. And we've moved them into the convention center with some prop-based type hands-on, heavy demo participation if you want to, but for those who attend that don't want to travel with all their gear, or they want to get a little more of the theory versus just the hands-on part, they're able to get tower ladders from Mike Champo, where he's going to do a couple hours in the classroom. Then you're going to walk outside at Lucas Oil and have a couple of tower ladders there and go over techniques. We've got Lee Hollins with school bus extrication, who's world renowned in school bus extrication. So we'll have a couple school buses in the parking lot, and we'll have extrication tools there. So you can get in as much hands-on involved as you want, or if you just want to be there to see to be up close to the actual cutting of the bus or whatever it is. We've got engine design, layout for function with Dennis Laguerre, who's going to talk about how to make your compartments and your hose beds and all function for you. We got Ray McCormick, nozzlemanship and line boss leadership. We've got Bob Morris, who's going to be doing forcible entry, which he's one of the most iconic guys in the fire service. We've got the FDNY training group that does their remote tactical training by video, who's going to actually bring in equipment and show you how to enhance your fire academy's ability to communicate with the folks in the station through cell phones and the internet connection. Then we've got a 16-hour offering of UL FSRI's boot camp, which was a extremely popular class in fire dynamics that they've condensed down to the 16-hour format. And they don't even really offer this anymore. They had a grant to teach this in about in every one of the FEMA regions. And once that ran out, now they're sort of just doing a few classes as they can get the funding or the support from departments. And so it's an opportunity for people who missed out on those initial offerings to take that. So that's a totally different format that's new to us. And then on top of that, we have 58 4-hour workshops over the 2 days, which there's everything from lithium ion batteries to EMS care and paramedicine, technical rescue, leadership. I mean, we try to cover the entire gamut of the fire service in those workshops. So we call that the pre-conference educational track. And if you do come into Indy, it's kind of an interesting time. Eric and I usually get there around Wednesday before everything starts on that following Monday. And the town is just peaceful and quiet. You can walk into any restaurant and sit down and there's no real hustle bustle, maybe a little bit of a crowd on the Friday night. That's just the local crowd. The hot instructors, which end up being about 280 instructors. They start coming in Friday night, Saturday. So then it's just sort of us and the hot instructors Saturday. Then the pre-con folks start coming in on Sunday, and you just see the momentum and the energy building in town. And then Monday morning at 6 a.m., the buses are lined up. I mean, it looks like you're at the Indianapolis 500 with the lineup. We need a checkered flag to wave to get the buses going to the sites, and then the energy just builds from there. And then the town is absolutely just totally taken over by the fire service. So it's incredible.
Yeah, and if you think about it, David, right? There is an energy when we get there. David, you get there Wednesday. I usually get there Friday, right? And we'll have a nice dinner, nice peaceful dinner. You know, some of the leadership team, and then we wind up heading to Howl at the Moon or somewhere where we see the hands-on training instructors decompressing, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of cool when you think about it, because they're doing so much work Friday and Saturday in preparation for the firefighters that are going to come in, you know, and literally we're moving around like 3 battalions, equivalent of 3 Army battalions, to sites all over Indianapolis. It's an incredible logistical challenge. And we're blessed to have David and folks like Brent and all the instructors who just do this. It's really impressive. As much as people see what's happening, when you think about the behind the scenes work that goes into this, you know, it's not just your typical trade show.
Yeah. And behind the scenes, all of that's being managed by an incident command team, an incident management team that is, when we count the site supervisors, the safety officers, all the logistics people, you're looking at a command system that has a team of about 170 people that are just managing that part of the conference. I mean, so it's like being on a, couple 1,000-acre wildland fire as far as the command side of it. I mean, there are a million moving parts. So it takes a lot, and we could not do it without the cooperation and the participation of all the local fire departments in the Indy area. And actually we are getting apparatus from as far as like 80 miles away that are coming in to help for this event and partner with us. So there's probably 50 different organizations involved in the whole process.
Yeah, it's not David. When I think about back in the days when I was still a volunteer firefighter, right, and I think of Chief Brennan, who's just an incredible mentor and really the guy who got me to join the fire service. When he said, Eric, why don't you go through an evolution? Mm-hmm. And I think I went through search and rescue, which was incredible. I wound up in a panic mode, pulled my mask and, everything off. You can't see anything, got caught up in that. And you really realize the stress. And then when I went to live burn, I think back in those times, Chief Lombardo from Buffalo was teaching it. And the incredible thing about it is it's realistic. Like, this is what firefighters are going to go through. And in my volunteer department, maybe we saw, a couple fires a year, but we weren't seeing a lot of fire. But when I went to the live fire training, and Chief Lombardo said the only difference between this and what you see on, your own department is that we know what time the fire started, right? Everything else, it's a fire, and you have instructors that are teaching you, because there's many different teachings that are going on at the moment. And I'm really proud of the team that we've built in more and more safety functions and have safety teams. Like, there's a lot that goes into this because we don't want anyone to get hurt or worse, right? I mean, this is serious stuff. We take the philosophy almost like the military. You must train, but it must be realistic. Otherwise, I think we're the only folks that are out there doing it in this capacity with this type of volume. There's certainly other folks that do it, but moving this many people around, the logistical challenges, just incredible. I'm so proud of David and the team.
It certainly is, and I think that you look at the whole range of training available at FDIC, from the hands-on training, the new initiative that's taking place, and I like the idea with the that ability to move the knowledgeable one sideways to bring some new blood coming up. And it's great to have that succession planning, because the new ones are confident knowing that their mentors are still around, that they can still ask for advice and guidance, and won't be afraid to do something wrong, maybe, and then look back and say, I need to just do that a little bit better. Let me go back to my mentor. And like you say, you've got people that come to to Indy, and that really put their experience and knowledge in the hands of people that are willing to learn. And that training doesn't stop at the end of the day. That training continues on into the evening and to the early hours of the morning. I think we all know the networking that goes on in Indy, in the bars, in the clubs, in the restaurants, between everybody. I've made lifelong friends that were met standing outside a bar, listening to the pipes and drums and just chatting. And wherever you go in the world, there's somebody not going to be too far away that you've met at Indy that you can pick up the phone and say, I'm in town, where do you recommend I go? And 9 times out of 10 they say, I'm not going to recommend anywhere, because I'm going to pick you up and I'll take you there myself. And that is something that the fire service can be extremely proud of, as is all those organizations that make up that team to put that hands-on training. I think we need to just touch now on the shiny red lorries, the glistening chrome, and all the innovation that goes on in the expo, which kicks off on the Thursday lunchtime in Indy, and then runs through until lunchtime on Saturday, where I always enjoy going into the expo on the Wednesday, and I catch up with more people on the Wednesday when they're not busy than normally you do during the show time, when they're talking to new clients and catching up with old ones. But the buzz, from an expo perspective and the manufacturers, the buzz really kicks off from Wednesday onwards, and convention center, the hallways, and Lucas Oil Stadium starts getting that buzz, and you can feel the excitement building. And for anybody listening to think, is it for me? Is it worth it? I would say that it's definitely worth it. If you go to Indy and you tell me that you haven't enjoyed it, then we'll sit down and have a chat, because you've obviously not been to the right bars or gone to the right events that go alongside the convention. I think it's my podcast, so I'm gonna make a statement that if you're in Indy and you want to go for a good drink, then you need to go to O'Reilly's, which is on South Pennsylvania, and go in and speak to Joe Wright, who's the owner, and mention my name, and I'm sure he'll put a drink for you on my tab. But yeah, you can have plenty of fun early or late in O'Reilly's, as well as many other bars in the city, and every one of them will have firefighters inside, outside, and you won't be far away from a pipe band. So, just to sum up, Eric, what are the 3 things for a first-time visitor to FDIC that they must do and see?
So let me just be a little politically correct here and not just give O'Reilly's a plug. There's so many great establishments. Indianapolis and that downtown area is such a welcoming area. And what I think everyone really should know, it's so walkable, right? You walk out of your hotel, the convention center's very close, and everything is built around it. There's a lot of, it's known as a sports city, so you have a AAA baseball team. Of course, you have the Indianapolis Pacers that are there, but there's all these bars and restaurants and the blocks in between. And during FDIC week, they're all, overflowing. So there's many great places, right? So it's a really inviting city. I would say, obviously the hands-on training is a key thing, right? Because what we know is we're not trying to train every firefighter from the department. We're trying to train the trainer. We want to train the person who's responsible for the education, so that they can take the knowledge that they get and bring it back to their department, right? That's really our philosophy. There's about 1.2, 1.3 million firefighters in the United States, add a bunch more from Canada. That's where you get the vast majority of the attendance from. But we actually get attendees from about 65 countries. So they're coming from all over the place, right? So I would say the networking at these things is really terrific, right? So the education is one thing. If you don't come to the main program, of course, you can't drink that much on Tuesday night because we start bright and early, on Wednesday morning. And it's really a spectacle. It's fantastic, from the pipe and drums that are walking in, and all the pageantry that the fire service is known for is on full display. And David, and the keynote speaker give riveting, really, speeches. And I look at that, and what we hear from our customer base is, you get us pumped up. You get us pumped up. We remember why we do this job, because it's taxing, right? This is a taxing job, being a firefighter. Whether you're a paid firefighter or a volunteer firefighter, you're doing much of the same thing. You might not see as much as a volunteer, but the risks are still the same. The stresses are still the same. So I think that's important, but I want to concentrate on the expo for a minute, right? We have the Indianapolis Convention Center, then we have Lucas Oil Stadium, and we have the outside demo area. And these are places, right? When you think about it, it's about 400,000 net square feet. So, Duncan, you're the European. You're going to have to convert to meters for me because I'm not so great at that. But you're talking about 800,000 gross square feet. Um, and it's a lot to cover. We'll see many departments send 2 to 4 people. We have departments that send 20 people, right? Because there's just so much to see, and you can't see it over the 2.5 days in the expo area. Now,
Certainly.
if you want, I know you wanted me to talk a little about Lucas Oil Stadium and the new things that are happening. So let me really just highlight a couple on the education side. We started a few years ago, about 3 years ago, doing metro officers, because the big city officers, they want something where they can network and talk amongst themselves about the issues and challenges that they face, and that has grown robustly, and they stay engaged. We meet with them 4 times a year, 3 through video chat, and then once live at FDIC. That's been amazing. And as we've had paradigm shift in responsibilities where firefighters more and more are responsible for EMS, we came up with GEMS, which is the Journal of Emergency Medical Services Innovation. That's where firefighter, paramedics, and EMTs and hospital directors, right? Anyone who handles pre-hospital care, is there, and that's been a good group. The 2 new groups are the International Association of Tall Buildings for tall building safety and firefighting, which is a new group coming in. We're really excited about that. And the other is ARF, right, where you're talking about airport firefighter rescue, and that's an emerging area. So those 2 groups more on the education side, and they meet, in these groups in hotel ballrooms, hotel conference rooms, literally that are adjacent and connected with a skywalk to the convention center. So they kind of do their own thing and then come over to the expo. And many of them really want to see the new technology, which is all around the place, right? But we also have created in Lucas Oil Stadium more experiential things, right? More of where the attendees can come, feel, and touch the product, wear it. Whether we're doing a drill yard with a rescue zone, we'll be, the attendees can cut up cars and they can get in there to do different drills. We're having different instructors that are coming in specifically to teach while that's going on. We have command and control, which is really about new technology. We have the AR, VR studios, which is really put on the goggles, experience this thing. Then we have a health and wellness center, right? As we know, the stresses of the job, mental wellness are critically important to firefighters, as well as understanding the risks of the toxins and the toxicity that happens on the job. We have a beautiful communications park where we're going to a bunch of stuff, including I think we're having an even dog park in there this year where people can see some Dalmatians, things like that, as well as an area for anyone in the fire service or the EMS community who's looking for continuing education credits, where they have a EMS lab, right, where you're going to go through a bunch of different things, and iSimulate has been critical in being a great partner on that, as well as some of the others to talk about airway management and cardiac arrest and things like that are critical for on the job. So really, really excited by what we're doing in Lucas Oil Stadium, and I think it's become, since last year when we did the fire rescue station of the future, showing off the technology, continuing on that with more robust offerings that are immersive.
Certainly, and it's exactly as you say, Eric. That whole area is really now becoming an area that people can go and see what the aspirations are, and we need to touch on the health and wellness, a huge area that the industry globally is dealing with. Mental health is something that I'm only too aware of, and I'm thankful for all the help that I continue to get from the professionals out there that put us back together after we see things that we wish we hadn't. But that whole particulate issue with cancer and firefighting is, in my view, it's the asbestos issue that we were seeing back in the 60s. We're now seeing that raise its head again, and we need to be ensuring that we put in place control measures to make sure that the firefighters that do such a fantastic job are protected, and as importantly, that they're not taking any of those contaminants home to their families and loved ones. We've got to really emphasize that there's technology out there now to assist in that, but there's going to need to be a culture change within the firefighters themselves as well, to say just because you can't see it doesn't mean to say the dangers aren't there. And we see far too many people and hear far too many people that are suffering from the effects of that. Thankfully, the recovery rates are getting better and better and better year on year, but we need to be stopping the whole issue at source, and it's something that I will willingly add my weight to, and I know that you will, David, as rest of the whole industry does. We're
doing it, and we need to make the government officials aware of it, right? And that's how we use our media brands to create a voice for the firefighters. We often have, many of the key government officials, at least here in the U.S., and we actually want more from the international community too. Part of, I think we've done a good job. As I told you, we do 60, 5 plus, countries are represented there. And that's critically important to the exhibitors as well, right? Because you can't take your trucks and ship them to all the different events around um, the world, as well as the other heavy equipment, pumps and even PPE. It's a little different, but you know, our community has asked, how do we get more international folks here? And tall buildings is a key area of growth for us, right? It's not just about having the attendee, it's the right attendee. And if you think about all the tall buildings that are going up in the Middle East and Asia, South America, it's becoming more and more important. So we think adding certain curricula that's important around the world, because remember, we're teaching a lot about structural firefighting that's germane to this area of the world, right? And from the east coast of the US to the west coast, construction is very different, right? And that's a critical element. And we teach what you should be doing in each. In Europe, everything's made of stone and it's been around for a lot longer than the United States constructed homes, right? But these are key things and key learnings. And if we share amongst one another, I mean, we'll develop what we need to bring the right people here to get educated.
Very much
Can
so.
I add a little something about the Lucas Oil?
Certainly.
Please do, David.
Yes, it's okay, Eric, to unveil some of the highly confidential secret information since we're only, 8 weeks out?
Use initials.
So Eric and I, we have racked our brains on, like, how do we continue the education experience, but maybe take down some of the barriers in the traditional educational sense. As he mentioned before, we're very pure on the educational side for the workshops, for the classroom sessions. So there's no vendor-led training in those things. It's all firefighters. It's, it may be some researchers or PhDs. There's no sales pitches. There's no anything in that. It is strictly education. But we did recognize there is value in vendor education because they know their products better than anybody. And so in racking our brain with this whole Lucas Oil hands-on type experience, we're trying to blend the two. So we created an actual Fire Academy drill yard in Lucas Oil Stadium that has a burn building. It has a rescue zone with hybrid cars. It has some forcible entry props and things like that. We're fortunate enough that we have a partner in Lyon that built us a digital burn building. Okay. And so, no, it's not live fire. It's not burning and all that, but there are things we can do in this space. And we've partnered with some heavy hitters. We have women in fire teaching a hands-on class in that drill yard. We have ISFSI instructors teaching a hands-on class in that space. We have the Georgia, Indiana, and Oklahoma smoke divers teaching search techniques in that space. And we've got a couple more we're working on that are going to be some heavy hitters too. And companies are able to get their products in that space to be used in that training. And there's even the opportunity for a company, if they want to teach their own class, they can reserve that space for an hour or hour and a half, and they can have their own instructors teaching. But we'll have the burn building that we can use. We'll have the cars for vehicle stabilization. We've got a really cool cutaway car from West Virginia University that is basically, they took the shell off of a hybrid car and basically made it into plexiglass, and it's drivable, but you can see all the components. And they'll be teaching about, responses to hybrid. Then, as Eric mentioned, the EMS, you'll actually be able to do field level ultrasounds in the lab. You'll be able to do innovations, and you're going to get credit for this stuff. You'll actually be able to get continuing ed credit for that. And I'm not exactly sure how it works over there, but I know in the U.S. you have to get EMS recert hours, and there's a couple ways to do that. And why not get those recert hours by doing the training like hands-on while you're there or attending the classes? And it's going to be a simple process. So I think that's real exciting. We're constantly looking for opportunities to bridge the education into the with the exhibitors, because there is a tremendous value in there while keeping the traditional education track very much pure. So I'm like super stoked, and even though it added a lot of workload on my side, because I typically that hasn't been a role that you got involved in. Anytime we can teach and people can learn, I mean, why not take advantage of that time? And we still have the outdoor area where all the demos and exhibits can go, but we're actually bringing that Fire Academy feel inside Lucas Oil Stadium.
And that is almost making me feel that I want to get my turnout gears out of the shed and bring them with me. It's been too long.
The turnout gear will be there available for you.
Yeah, there we go. Perhaps you never know.
Just walk in and pick out a set, and you'll be good to go.
Watch this space. I might put my hand back in it. It's a bit like riding a bike, or it should be. You should never.
We're
never
forget
that.
Video.
Yeah.
We're going to do that. And, you know, since you're kind of world renowned too, Duncan, we could put you in the evolution and have you go through the paces. And then we could continue taping you at 2:00 in the morning at Nikki Blaine's or Rocky Patel's.
Hey, you know the learning model: crawl, walk, run. Then we'll add crawl back in there.
Yeah, definitely. And that just goes to show that the learning never stops. I just wanted to touch on what you mentioned there, Eric, in relation to the Tall Buildings Fire Safety Network and the work that Russ Timpson and his team are doing. Russ is an old friend of mine, and I know how hard he's working on bringing his hugely successful product to FDIC, and anybody that's not seen what that is all about, then it's well worth looking at. And if you get the opportunity to get onto that this year, I know that you won't be disappointed. And it's a credit to yourselves, Eric and David, that you're always looking at ways in providing extra experience, extra opportunities away from what is traditionally been the norm. So that is great. I've really enjoyed this. I was already excited that we were only a few weeks away now. I'm even more excited that we're going to be seeing so much new stuff and catching up with so many old friends and making new ones. I'd like to put a plug in now in terms of people coming into the Indiana Convention Center. Pop by and see me on booth 244. You got a hugely warm welcome. I'm looking forward to meeting up with you again, the pair of you again, and also committing our strength and resources to making mental health and cancer a priority globally. And anybody that wants to get involved with David, myself, Eric, and the global voices, if you like, of the fire industry, then you'd be more than welcome. And we can guarantee you that your efforts will be well rewarded with humor, amusement, and friendship that comes with the best industry in the world. I'm Duncan White. I'm the managing editor of the International Fire and Safety Journal, and I've had the pleasure today to speak to Eric Schlett and David Rhodes. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Duncan, and we're looking forward to seeing you in Indianapolis.